you don't want any of these to happen, but, you know, it's like a slap in the face. That happens, and you don't want them to happen, but, hey, here it is. And so now you're forced to stand there and stare at it, and how are we going to fix this? No different than the field goal getting blocked. You know, you stand there, you preach it, you talk it, and it freaking happens to us, you know, and you get hit square in the face. So it's about cleaning it up. It's about correcting the errors, and we move on.
All right, you heard it there. Dan Campbell saying it's his fault. We're going to fix the mistakes. We're going to move on and get on with it. However, you look at that game yesterday, and even from the very first quarter as I was watching, things just weren't feeling comfortable. They weren't firing on all cylinders, but I can't figure out why. Yeah.
Honestly, it just felt like the Lions, their identity is based so much on being able to win up front offensively, and they just couldn't get anything going on offense. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect Jared Goff. And even when they did get some protection, Goff was under so much pressure that it seemed like he had happy feet and he wasn't comfortable in the pocket. So honestly, it all just fell apart from the start.
All right, so was it the Vikings having an incredible D-line or our O-line just feeling off?
Well,
or both?
The Vikings are a very good defensive team, and Brian Flores is notably one of the guys who blitzes the most in the league. So, but this is not new to the Lions. They shouldn't have been surprised by that. What was surprising was the inability by that line to keep Jared Goff clean at all, especially the interior. Then you lose a couple guys to injuries on top of that, and you're starting to worry about the depth.
Right. I also wonder if they're, I don't want to say they weren't prepared, but maybe weren't anticipating J.J. McCarthy to be that on point, especially for, you know, only his third appearance in the NFL.
Yeah, and coming off a long injury where he missed an entire month, making his third start ever. You don't expect him to come into Detroit and beat a Lions team that we all think is a Super Bowl contender, right? So the very first drive, the Lions kind of let him get comfortable. They give up a big kickoff return, so he had good field position. A couple big passes to Addison and to J.J., and it was like, man, you just kind of let this guy get hot. He found his footing, and then the Lions, it felt like they were kind of playing on their heels the rest of the game.
You know what I've noticed about this Lions team is that when they've got the momentum swinging their way, everything is going right, and you can feel it in Ford Field. You can see it on the field. When the momentum isn't there is when you start to see those mistakes, and they can't rely on the momentum.
Yeah, it's almost like they aren't as deep as they were last year. They don't have that base where if things aren't going well, they can't catch up quite as quick. Like we saw it with the Buccaneers. The Lions started off hot, and they just sort of, the avalanche kept going, and they rolled over them. The Vikings, as soon as they answered back from that opening Lions touchdown, it was like, okay, wait a minute, I thought we were kind of going to cruise through this game. So, yeah, and then it was just the inability to put together a drive. They can't convert on third downs because Jared Goff doesn't have the protection. It's sort of the thing that we were worried about a little bit in the preseason. It's like, what is this offensive line with all these turnovers without Ragnow, without Zeitler? And for a few weeks, it was like, oh, well, they're fine. You know, the Lions found a way to regroup. But those concerns have started to creep back in a little bit, and it's not getting any better.
I think there were a lot of us watching the last play of the game, really hoping, thinking that the Vikings were not going to get that first down. Force a fourth, and then we would have a chance, if momentum was right, just march it down the field. I don't think we expected them to convert.
No, and, you know, J.J. McCarthy just answered the call on every single one of those big plays. And on this particular play, it was Michigan to Michigan State, right? He had Naylor. So it's like, I don't know. J.J. McCarthy, you didn't expect him because the start of the season was so rough for him to be able to make those big-time throws. Like you said, facing a third and long, it's like, okay, the Lions are going to get a shot here. They're going to tie the game. They're going to win it overtime. Nope. Makes a big play, and the defense can't quite get a stop, and that's just the way it went.
I may or may not have used AI to make you this pie chart.
Oh, God. What do you got for
me? It's black and white, so I'm not going to show it on camera. But I do have a whole conversation here. Looking at our record after a bye week under Dan Campbell. I don't even know if you need to see this, right? But you probably know where I'm going with this.
I know it's not good.
Right? Yeah. It's 2-3-1.
The tie.
There's one tie on the pie chart there. I get nervous now after a bye week. Do you?
You know, I hadn't really thought about this until this loss. People started saying, it was on my timeline. People were talking about, like, why aren't the Lions ever prepared after a bye? You know, and you could even throw in the postseason last year. They had
in there. That's part of it. Here's my whole thing.
They had the bye week, and then they lose to the Commanders, right? So, and honestly, the Lions have sort of been a team that struggles the first game of a season too. Like, it's not a bye week, but in week one, you know, they were coming off the preseason where none of their players play, and they look bad. So I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it, but it does seem like there's kind of something there. Like maybe they just have too much time for preparation.
Well, and normally rest is a good thing. You know, we're going to rest up. We're going to feel good. We're going to feel energized. Is there not enough practices? Are we not pulling the trigger hard enough to spend more time at Allen Park?
Yeah, it's a debate as old as time, right? Rest versus rust in sports. And it's like, where is the happy medium? Like, we've seen it with the Tigers in the playoffs. If they have a long layover, they don't come out strong. Some teams respond to it, but I'm wondering if, like, Dan Campbell and, it's such a high-intensity coaching staff.
Right.
If you're sort of taking a week where you sort of let off the gas pedal, maybe it takes them a little bit of time to get geared up again.
Right. Okay, so if you're Dan Campbell, what are you telling the guys going into next week then?
Well, they lost on purpose so that they won't have a bye in the playoffs, so that we don't have to reference this pie chart again.
What's wrong with my pie chart?
If I'm Dan Campbell, the biggest thing that Lions fans are going to be looking at, specifically today and tomorrow, is what is Brett Holmes going to do before the trade deadline tomorrow to supplement.
Do you see any movement?
Yes. There's no way that the Lions don't add to this team.
Are we calling the Titans?
I think that there's a good chance of calling the Titans because, Kevin Zeitler, he was just here.
Right.
He's a position of need.
Yep.
The person who replaced him on the offensive line just got taken out on a cart yesterday. So all of these things are lining up where it seems like, man, it's just a really good fit.
Yeah. Okay. Derek, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Always love it. You don't diss the pie chart, man.
It's a beautiful pie chart.
It's not even in color. And then the colors weren't off enough, so I had to add some lines so you could see what was going on there. I'll put this on clickondetroit.com. Actually, he will.